You hear that? Rourke growled, wiping blood from his brow as the ground shook beneath his boots. The comm crackled, but the terrified voice on the other end was clear. They're sending the burning spear, Commander! The Empire's elite! We're dead! Rourke cut him off, a grim smile playing on his lips. Good. He stared at the sky as the first Zyros warships darkened the horizon. Let them come. The real army hasn't even arrived yet. The air above Velker 9 tasted like iron and ash. Smoke drifted in lazy columns from shattered outposts, curling against the darkened sky like fingers refusing to let go. Commander Elias Rourke stood still among the wreckage, the scorched Imperial banners at his feet flapping weakly in the heat. He could still hear the echoes of the last volley, still feel the shockwave from the final blast that had ripped through the Zyros command tower only minutes ago. Blood clung to his brow, half-dried, mingled with grime. His pulse beat steady now, the chaos done, for the moment. Behind him, the surviving members of his unit moved quietly, tending wounds, gathering supplies, resetting traps for what they all knew would come next. Victory here wasn't celebration, it was warning. Commander, you want me to patch you up? Lieutenant Vega called out, cradling a scorched datapad in one hand. Rourke didn't turn. His eyes were fixed on the remains of the comms array, twisted metal and fried circuits. No time, he said, stepping forward, boots crunching over glass and bone. Get me a channel. I want the Empire listening. Vega hesitated. This might not sit well with HQ. Rourke finally looked at her, something hard glinting in his eyes. They're not the ones bleeding here. She gave a tight nod and went to work. Within seconds, static crackled to life, an open Imperial channel flickering on. Rourke grabbed the mic. This is Commander Elias Rourke of Earth's Vanguard. His voice was low, rough, meant for ears he wanted to haunt. To the overlords of Zyros, to your precious fleet, you think this is over? This was just a skirmish. You haven't seen our war. He paused, letting silence carry the weight. We're not broken. We're not running. You think Earth is beaten? We haven't even started. He dropped the mic. Vega cut the feed. Message received, she said softly, almost afraid of what they'd just done. Good, Rourke murmured, already turning back to the battlefield. Let them come. A faint buzz filled the air. A scout drone, Imperial, hovered overhead, probably transmitting everything back to Zyros Prime. He didn't bother to shoot it down. Let them see. Sergeant Holt limped over, a deep gash across his side, but his usual scowl intact. You're poking the beast, Commander. Rourke glanced at him, a flicker of something colder than fear in his eyes. I'm dragging it out where we can kill it. They both looked up as the distant sky flickered, a shimmer of movement at the edge of the atmosphere. Too high for detail, but enough to know more ships would be coming. Imperial warships didn't take kindly to humiliation. You think they'll send Krythar himself? Holt asked, half joking. Rourke's mouth twisted, not quite a smile. They'll send everything. They always do when their pride's wounded. Holt spat into the dirt. Let's hope they choke on it. Light years away, on the marble halls of Zyros Prime, High Overlord Krythar Valuin reclined on his throne of stone and light. The chamber echoed with murmurs from his council, holographic maps flickering with the latest reports. Velker 9, a minor mining world, barely of note, was ablaze. Human forces had overrun it, killing his garrison. Krythar sipped from a crystal chalice, eyes half-lidded, amused. They burned an outpost, he said lazily. A flea biting a giant. One of his advisors, Lord Pyr, cleared his throat. They broadcast a message, Overlord. Defiance. They claim this is only the beginning. Krythar chuckled. Let them dream. The ape-men enjoy theatrics. Another voice, sharper, younger, Captain Irax, one of the few who dared question, spoke up. Their tactics, sire, they're not like before. They've adapted. Krythar waved him off. We crushed their colonies. Their spirit is smoke. Send the burning spear. End this. A murmur of agreement swept the chamber, but Irax stood firm. If we dismiss them, we risk more than pride. Krythar stood, the air seeming to tighten with his presence. I risk nothing. I command the stars. You think I fear Earth? They barely qualify as civilized. The council fell silent. Orders were sent. The burning spear fleet would leave at dawn. Back on Velker 9, night was falling, casting long shadows over the wreckage. Rourke sat alone by a shattered wall, cleaning his weapon, mind far from rest. Vega approached, crouched beside him. You ever think we pushed too hard today? He didn't look up. Not hard enough. She hesitated, then Saturday. They'll come, you know. I'm counting on it. She watched him, the lines on his face sharper now, carved by war and something deeper. Why this planet? She asked. Why here? He paused, hands still. Because this was theirs. Now it's ours. And when they come to take it back, we bury them. Far above, stars blinked into view, cold and countless. Somewhere among them, Krythar's fleet was stirring. Rourke stood, slinging his rifle over his shoulder. They think we're cornered, he said. They don't know we built the cage. And in the distance, the sky flickered again, Imperial warships, drawing closer. The sparks had been struck. Now, the fire would spread. The stars over Velker 9 dimmed, not from the setting sun, but from the shadow of the fleet descending. The burning spear, pride of the Zyro's Imperial Armada, tore through the upper atmosphere in a wedge formation, engines glowing like vengeful suns. Each ship gleamed with polished hulls and gilded insignias, a force built for spectacle as much as war. Commander Elias Rourke stood on a rocky ridge, watching them fall like blades from heaven. He didn't blink. They brought the whole parade, Sergeant Holt muttered, adjusting the sight on his rifle. Let them march, Rourke replied, eyes cold. We'll break their rhythm soon enough. Velker Ix's surface lay silent, but beneath it, within carved tunnels and fortified ruins, the human forces prepared. Mines were armed. Jammers waited. Rourke wasn't here to match the Empire's ship for ship. He'd win with ground, with grit, and with every mistake their arrogance would gift him. High aboard the flagship Cyrax Claw, Overlord Krythar strode across the command deck, his long robes sweeping behind him. His officers snapped to attention, though none dared to meet his eyes. Status? He demanded. Vice Admiral Threx stepped forward. Scouts report the human forces remain entrenched around the southern ridges. Minimal air defense. Primitive tech. Krythar smiled. Primitive yet defiant. A dangerous mix for them. Captain Irax, standing further back, stiffened. Permission to speak, Overlord? Granted. Briefly. Our last engagement cost us ships, resources. These humans don't follow our doctrines. They strike without warning, without rules. Krythar turned, face impassive. Rules are for those who fear chaos. We are the storm, Irax. They'll kneel or burn. The first wave landed by midday. Imperial dropships, elegant in design, carved through the sky and set down with mechanical precision. Hundreds of Zyro's soldiers disembarked, armored, disciplined, convinced of their inevitable victory. From his perch, Rourke raised his hand. Now. Across the valley, pressure-triggered mines ignited. The lead dropships erupted, metal twisting mid-air. Zyro's soldiers were thrown like rag dolls, their formation crumbling before the first shot was fired. Lieutenant Vega's voice crackled over comms. First line broken. Minimal resistance left. Moving to Phase 2. Hold them, Rourke ordered. Bleed them just enough. Holt grinned, dropping to a sniper's position. With pleasure. The Empire regrouped quickly as expected. Their discipline was rigid, but their minds were slow to adapt. Rourke didn't need to win here. He needed to make them overcommit, to play into hands they didn't even know were holding cards. Krythar's jaw tightened as the tactical screen lit up with damage reports. They were ready for us, Threx muttered. No, Krythar snapped. They were lucky. Prepare the second wave. Burn them out. Irax stepped forward. With respect, We underestimated them once already. Krythar's gaze sliced through him. Do you suggest we hesitate? I suggest we think. Then think on this. Krythar growled. Disobedience invites death. Irax stepped back, silent. On the ground, Imperial forces advanced, heavy armor rolling through the shattered landscape. Plasma turrets fired in tight bursts, tearing through cover. But every time they gained ground, they found themselves mired in new traps, explosive-laden corridors, false paths, sudden ambushes from hidden human squads. Inside a ruined comms tower, Rourke watched it unfold on a flickering screen. Second wave's committed, Vega reported. They're pushing hard, but it's sloppy. They're angry, Rourke said. Good. Anger blinds. He moved to the center console, activating a relay. A signal burst into space, encrypted and brief. What's that? Holt asked. Phase 3, Rourke said. They want a war? Let's remind them we're not alone. Back aboard Zyrax Claw, frustration simmered. Reports piled in, casualties, lost units, equipment destroyed by primitive tactics. Krythar paced, nostrils flared. Where's their fleet? Where's the rest of their army? No sign of reinforcements, Threx replied. They fight like they're defending something more, Irax murmured. They fight like animals, Krythar spat. Bring the orbital cannons online. Level their positions. As the Empire's ships charged their weapons, Rourke stood in the shadow of the Iron Revenant, hidden deep in Velker's canyons. The massive warship, sleek and black, bristled with stolen technology, a hybrid beast built in secret. Lieutenant Vega joined him. Orbital fire incoming. If we stay here. We won't, Rourke said. They're too high to see what's under their feet. He gave the order. The Iron Revenant's engines roared, launching skyward, cloaked under jamming fields until the last possible moment. Krythar's command deck lit with alarms. Unknown vessel approaching. Where? Krythar barked. Directly below, closing fast. The Iron Revenant burst through the lower atmosphere, its forward cannons firing before Krythar's fleet could react. 2 Imperial cruisers were crippled instantly, their hulls cracking under the force. Krythar stared in disbelief. What is that? A voice came through the comms, calm, almost amused. Commander Rourke here. Just thought I'd introduce one of our newer toys. Krythar seethed. You dare! Save the outrage. Rourke cut him off. This was never about Velker 9. This is about you thinking we wouldn't hit back. On the ground, Imperial forces hesitated, their support above suddenly in flames. Human squads surged forward, pressing the advantage, forcing the Empire into retreat. Lieutenant Vega's voice rang in Rourke's ear. We've got them. What now? Rourke watched the stars as the Iron Revenant danced among the ships. We hold, he said. The real fight's just begun. The Imperial flagship drifted in low orbit, its sleek lines scorched and pocked with damage. Smoke leaked from the underbelly, a grim stain against the backdrop of distant stars. On the bridge of Zyrax Claw, Overlord Krythar paced slowly, hands clasped behind his back, his silence heavier than any command. Across the room, Captain Irax reviewed tactical feeds, struggling to keep his voice steady. We lost 4 cruisers. Another 3 are disabled. Their warship. I know what it did. Krythar cut in, his voice cold. I watched it do it. No one spoke. The Empire hadn't faced loss like this in decades, not to a species that was supposed to be beneath notice. He turned toward Irax. Explain how an unrecognized world engineered a ship that tears through an Imperial line. Irax hesitated. They're not using standard tech. Some of it's stolen, some modified. There's energy output I've never seen in a vessel that size. Krythar's jaw clenched. Meaning? They've evolved. Fast. We thought they were still crawling. Turns out they were digging in. Krythar moved to the display table, shadows flickering across his face as holograms danced between burnout fleet icons. We give them nothing more. Shut down their momentum. I want the ship destroyed. I want the commander's head. Below, deep in the carved-out tunnels of Velker 9, Rourke stared at a live feed of the Imperial fleet licking its wounds. They're regrouping, Vega said beside him. Still plenty of firepower left. No reinforcements detected, but they're digging in. They expected a surrender, not a stand, Rourke muttered. They'll adapt now. Holt chimed in over comms. That fleet still outguns us 5-1. If they come back smarter, we won't last long. Rourke nodded. Then we give them reasons to doubt every move. He turned to the table and began outlining a new plan, a guerrilla strike, precision made to cut their confidence instead of their numbers. Start with their supply lines, he said. Choke them. Make them guess when the next ration runs dry or engine fails. I want them paranoid. Vega gave a short nod. Psychological warfare. Smart. No. Desperate, Rourke corrected. We win with shadows, not strength. 3 nights later, under cover of storm winds and electromagnetic interference, 3 human drop teams launched from canyon silos. Small, fast, and cloaked, they didn't aim for glory, only disruption. The first team hit a logistics hub just as a shipment of fuel cells was offloading. Timers were set. 5 minutes later, fire lit the clouds. No alarms had time to ring. The second team boarded an unguarded dock destroyer, rewrote its targeting parameters, then disappeared before the crew realized they'd been inside. The destroyer later opened fire on one of its own escorts during a test drill. The third team never returned, but the beacon they left behind broadcast Imperial fleet routes back to Rourke's command. On Zyrak's claw, chaos brewed. Accusations of sabotage echoed in war rooms. Lower officers whispered of cursed ground, of human demons crawling in the dirt. Krythar watched it unfold with growing fury. How did they infiltrate a destroyer? He barked. Threx stammered. We don't know. Sensors recorded no breach. They were ghosts. Then we fight ghosts with fire. Krythar growled. Launch a full planetary sweep. Drones, scanners, orbital surveillance. Leave no cavern unburnt. Irax stepped forward again, cautious. Burning terrain only fuels resistance. They're provoking us, sir. Krythar turned slowly. If you fear fire, Captain, you do not belong in the furnace. As the Empire poured resources into blind sweeps, Rourke moved his teams further underground. The tunnels weren't natural. They were remnants of an extinct mining species, long dead, forgotten by the stars. Humanity, desperate for survival, had made use of what the powerful ignored. You ever wonder what happened to the miners? Holt asked as they passed a chamber filled with alien machines, long dormant. They probably thought they were safe right until the sky fell in, Rourke said. And we're banking on being smarter? We're banking on being faster. They entered the war room, more wires than walls, maps strung across the room in overlapping light fields. Reports came in, fast and steady. Imperial morale was cracking. Their crews were overworked, running on half rations. Ships patrolled erratically, jumpy, fearful of the Revenant's return. They're bleeding from the inside, Vega noted. One more push could break the line. Not yet, Rourke said. They're wounded, but pride keeps them standing. We wait for the exact moment they think they've recovered. That moment came 2 days later, when the Empire launched a full-scale assault on the eastern ridges. They think we're cornered, Vega said, pulling up live feeds. They're wrong, Rourke replied. Trigger the decoys. Explosive-laced mechs, disguised as command posts, lit up the ridge in sequence. To the Imperials, it looked like their assault was working, until their forward units hit an empty plateau and found themselves surrounded by human squads with the high ground. The skirmish lasted less than an hour. Rourke didn't stay to see the end. Instead, he stood inside a command tunnel, opening a secure channel to the one contact that still hadn't answered. This is Commander Rourke, he said into the static. We're holding. Barely. I need confirmation. Are you ready? A long pause. Then a voice crackled through, alien, low, deliberate. Our ships are fueled. Our debts are remembered. Rourke allowed himself a rare smile. Then let's change the rules. The shadows were working. Now it was time to bring in the steel. The storm broke at dawn. Velker Ix's twin suns pierced the gray sky, casting harsh light over cratered earth and smoking wreckage. The Empire's banners, once proud, lay tattered across the battle-scarred fields, symbols of dominance now stained by miscalculation. But the day wasn't silent. Above, the sky roared. Rourke stood on a jagged cliff, his eyes fixed on the horizon. He didn't flinch as the Iron Revenant ascended again, its hull gleaming black and red, trailing vapor in its wake. Today was different. Today, he wasn't alone. Vega's voice cut through the calms. Long-range scans just picked them up. They're here. How many? Rourke asked, his voice steady. 3 capital ships. 4 destroyers. And smaller carriers. Tarscan design. He exhaled once, hard. Good. High above, aboard Zyrax's claw, Krythar leaned forward, eyes narrowing at the unexpected sensor data. What is that? He demanded. Threx hesitated. New contacts, unknown transponders. Human? Negative. Mixed signatures. A grim realization dawned. Irax spoke, his voice low. Allied species. Krythar turned on him. Allies? The Tarskans are subjugated. Were. Irax corrected boldly now. It seems not everyone forgets rebellion. The new fleet emerged from warp, splitting the void with purpose. At the center flew the Gauntlet of Vek, an ancient Tarscan warship, bristling with retrofitted weaponry. Beside it, human-built carriers moved in formation, flying colors no one in the Empire had seen, an alliance flag, forged in silence. Rourke opened a channel. This is Commander Elias Rourke, Earth Vanguard. To the Imperial forces still clinging to Velker 9, you've overstayed your welcome. He let the words hang. Then, more voices joined him. A deep, gravelly tone followed, unmistakably alien. This is Warleader Volk of the Tarscan Freeborn. We have come for justice. Another, smoother voice chimed in. And for remembrance, spoke Lady Valari of the HFY Confederacy. You burned our worlds. Now feel the flame. Krythar's knuckles whitened. Bring the fleet into defensive formation. Target the lead ships. Crush them before this spreads. Orders rang out, but confusion followed. The Imperial fleet, fractured from recent losses, struggled to reorganize. Too many captains questioned, too many soldiers whispered. On Velker 9, Imperial ground troops looked skyward as strange ships broke through the clouds. For the first time, they saw the Empire outnumbered. In the canyon control center, Holt grinned wide. Never thought I'd see the day the Tarskans fought with us. Rourke barely reacted, eyes on the live feed. They're not fighting for us. They're fighting for themselves. That's why they'll win. Vega moved beside him. Should we push? Hit them while they're off balance? Not yet. Rourke pointed to the map. Let them think they can still win. Their pride's the last thing holding them together. The first clash above Velker 9 was swift and brutal. The Gauntlet of Vek took the lead, ramming through an Imperial cruiser, cutting it in half with its reinforced prow. Human bombers darted between enemy lines, targeting engines and weapon arrays with precise strikes. The Revenant, flanking right, unleashed its experimental railguns, piercing through 2 smaller vessels before they could react. Imperial ships returned fire, but coordination faltered. Some captains broke formation, retreating toward Zyros Prime for reinforcements. Others fought harder, desperate to salvage glory from the wreckage. On the Zyrax's claw, chaos reigned. Rear flank compromised. We've lost contact with Dreadclaw. Enemy forces advancing on all vectors. Krythar slammed his fist into the console. Enough! Ready the Dreadnought's main cannon. Target their flagship. Kill their leaders, and the rest scatter. The Gauntlet of Vek took the brunt of the Empire's retaliation. Focused fire tore into its side, metal shrieking as the hull buckled. But it didn't fall. Tarscan engineers rerouted power, forcing the ship forward, engines howling. Aboard, War Leader Vokes snarled into the calms. We hold, or we die. There is no retreat. Rourke's voice returned calm and sharp. Reposition. The Revenants got your flank. From below, the Iron Revenant surged upward, catching the Empire's heavy guns from behind. Its cannons opened fire, and the nearest enemy battleship exploded, scattering debris across the battlefield. Crythar watched the destruction unfold, disbelieving. They're nothing! He hissed. They were nothing! Iraq's approached, his voice controlled. They were nothing. Until now. Crythar turned slowly. You think this is over? Irax held his gaze. I think we've lost the stars. Back on Velker 9, Rourke stood in the war room, absorbing the tide's turn. One by one, enemy markers faded from the map. The Empire's presence, vast and invincible hours ago, now flickered like dying embers. Status? He asked. Vega smiled for the first time in days. We've got them. Fleet's crumbling. Ground forces are pulling back. Rourke nodded once. Push forward. Drive them off the surface. No mercy. Holt's voice cut in. Some of them are surrendering. Rourke paused. Let them. The more who run, the faster the Empire rots. As the final Imperial ships fled, a message echoed across all channels. This is Elias Rourke. Velker 9 is free. Let this be known, the Empire bleeds. And above, for all to see, the Alliance flag rose over the battered world, a signal that the galaxy had changed, and the real war had just begun. The Imperial base at Velker 9 was silent now, save for the wind that swept through broken towers and burned out wreckage. Smoke coiled lazily in the morning air, mingling with the acrid scent of plasma and melted steel. Where once the Empire had stood, only ruin remained. And yet something still stirred inside, something unwilling to die quietly. Commander Rourke moved cautiously through the rubble, his boots crunching glass and debris with every step. His rifle hung ready, eyes sharp. The battle had ended, but not all enemies knew how to surrender. Vega's voice crackled in his ear. Scanners show movement near the core compound. It's him. Rourke didn't need her to say the name. Crythar. Deep in the bowels of the shattered fortress, Overlord Crythar stood alone before the central reactor, a flickering console casting cold light across his face. His robes were torn, his left arm limp at his side, but his eyes burned with the same pride that had driven him across galaxies. Pride now hollow. He pressed a sequence of commands into the console, ignoring the blood dripping from his fingers. The reactor core pulsed, unstable. One final act, one final blow. If he couldn't rule, he would destroy. A voice echoed behind him. You're done, Crythar. The Overlord turned slowly, his mouth curling into something between a sneer and a snarl. Rourke stepped into the room, weapon raised, every line of his body tense. You won't take me alive, Crythar spat. Good, Rourke replied, stepping closer. Crythar straightened, defiance radiating off him. You think this victory means something? Your ants. We built this galaxy. We gave it order. You gave it graves. Rourke shot back. That order? It's dead. Crythar's hand hovered near the console again, a final move lingering. You'll die with me, he said, voice low. Maybe, Rourke said, moving closer, unflinching. But not today. With a sharp motion, Rourke fired, not at Crythar, but at the console. Sparks flew, circuitry melted, and the reactor's hum faltered. Crythar roared in rage, lunging. They collided, fists and fury, ancient pride against relentless will. Rourke drove Crythar back, landing a brutal strike to the Overlord's jaw. Crythar stumbled, gasping, still reaching for something, anything, to salvage his legacy. You should have stayed in the sky, Crythar hissed. And leave this unfinished? Rourke caught him by the collar, slamming him into the wall. We've been unfinished long enough. With a final blow, Crythar collapsed, breath shallow, the fight draining from him like blood from a wound too deep. Rourke stood over him, chest heaving. It's over. Crythar's eyes flickered, fading. No. It's just beginning. Outside, the last of the Empire's forces were being rounded up or fleeing into the wastelands. The Allied banners, Tarscan, HFY, and Human, waved together, a symbol of a new order not yet defined, but born in fire. Vega met Rourke as he emerged from the ruins, her face pale but determined. Krythar? Gone. And the reactor? Disabled. He tried to take us with him. She nodded, glancing at the horizon where the suns now rose fully, casting long shadows over the battlefield. Word spreading, she said. Other systems are rising up. Zyros isn't the same without him. Rourke looked up, the sky clearer now. They never were as strong as they claimed. They just made us believe they were. Later, standing on the cliffs overlooking Velker 9, Rourke surveyed the land below. Smoke still rose in places, but so did life, soldiers rebuilding, survivors emerging from hiding, voices rising not in fear, but in something closer to hope. Holt approached, a bandage over one eye, but his usual smirk in place. Well, boss, you kicked the hornet's nest good this time. They needed it. You think the rest will follow? They already are. Holt nodded, falling quiet. What now? He asked after a beat. Rourke didn't answer immediately. He watched a group of human and alien engineers working together, clearing the ruins, laying the foundations for something new. Now, he finally said. Now we finish what they started. Across the galaxy, the fall of Krythar rippled like a shockwave. Systems once loyal to Zyros declared independence. Others, too afraid to rise before, now saw the Empire as mortal, fallible. Rourke's message, simple and clear, echoed through every channel. We are not your subjects. We are not your prey. We are free. And as the news spread, so did rebellion. The Empire, bloated and rigid, could not hold against a tide it had never prepared for. Back in the command center, Vega brought up fresh reports. Valari's fleet took the Tross Expanse. No resistance. Tarscan secured their homeworld. Good, Rourke said, eyes scanning the stars. The more ground they lose, the faster they fall. He turned to Vega. And Earth? She smiled. Watching. Waiting. Rourke nodded. They won't wait long. As night fell on Velker 9, a planet once crushed under Imperial rule now breathed free air. Fires of war faded into the glow of rebuilding, and in the silence that followed, a new truth emerged. The galaxy had been ruled by fear. Now, it would be ruled by those who dared to fight back. Rourke stood alone for a moment, eyes on the dark sky. They thought we were done, he murmured. Now they know, we're just getting started.